This is a story like many others. But this story is mine. It all began happening when I was around 11 or 12 years old. I can't specifically recall exactly when, but around this time. It was the early 2000s, and I lived at home with my parents. I was just a regular kid. Nothing special about me. But this changed when I met Christina. Christina was a girl around my age who had just started in my class. Almost immediately when I first met her, I could sense that she was used to being alone. She didn't try striking up a friendly conversation with her other classmates. Except for me. I often caught her looking at me in class when she thought I wouldn't notice. But I did. So one day when we had our lunch break in the cafeteria, I walked over to her. She was sitting by herself and I thought, well, she looked like she could use some company. I started by saying, "Oh, hi. You're the new girl in biology, right?" She looked at me, startled, almost fumbling over her own words when she said, "Do I know you?" "Oh, sorry, I'm Nate. We have some classes together," I replied. "Cool. Do you want to sit together and eat?" she proposed. "Sure," I said. We then started hanging out between class and later on even after school. We became relatively close friends, but we would always stay at my parents' house and never hers. I didn't think anything of it in the beginning, but as the months passed, I started wondering how it could be that she didn't want to have me over at her place. Christina and I were just friends. Just friends. We would do all sorts of things together. As we got older, we started going to the mall quite often. We would also go bowling, go to the movies, or roller skate around my street. But Christina's parents, whom I never met, had this weird rule about her sleeping schedule. If Christina hadn't gotten her perfect 8 hours sleep, she wasn't allowed to hang out after school. But luckily for me, Christina almost had her 8 hours every night, so it wasn't that big of a deal. At the end of the year, Christmas break was upon us. We had planned to hang out during the break, and we had this one movie we'd agreed on watching together at the cinema. Winter break came, and then, nothing. I couldn't get a hold of Christina, no matter how many times I tried contacting her. So as a normal person would do, I got her address, took my bike, and drove to her house. The journey to her house was longer than expected. Significantly longer, in fact. Turns out her house was way out in the middle of nowhere. It took me slightly more than an hour to get to her house. The first thing I thought of was how ruined the house looked from the outside. Broken windows, fixed with a DIY fix made of cardboard, bricks missing from the house, etc. I parked my bike and went up to the front door to knock. The door looked ancient, but not in a cool way. Just a way too old door, which, by the looks of it, would easily crumble if you touched it. I knocked. Nothing. I knocked again. Nothing. I tried reaching for the handle, and when I touched it, the door was flung open. A man appeared, around his mid-40s, tall, and with a pale gray face. He looked down on me, almost looking through me, and said, "You must be Nathan. Please, come in." His tone and appearance made me feel quite uneased. Nonetheless, I went inside. The whole house reeked of something you could describe as moldy. There was no light in the house, nor any heating. The house was cold. I could see my breath as it hit the air. The man, who I assumed was Christina's father, just said, "Make yourself at home," and sat down on an old, dirty couch. I walked around a bit, looking at the old paintings on the wall. They all had the same grayish color scheme. Depressing, I thought to myself. I walked over to the staircase and thought, wow, I wouldn't even want to walk up and down these stairs more than necessary. The staircase looked like something from a house almost demolished. I manned up and walked up the stairs. "Christina is sleeping at the moment," her father said, coming from the living room downstairs. "No worries. I'll just wake her up quietly," I replied. "No!" the father yelled from downstairs. The change of tone scared me a bit. "Christina will be done sleeping soon. Just have patience," her father said, almost sounding like an excuse for his outburst. I could hear him struggling to get up from the couch downstairs, and decided to quietly check to see if Christina was up by now. There were a couple of doors, but one of them had letters that spelt out CHRISROOM. I went up to the door and carefully grabbed the doorknob. I opened the door. What I saw was terrifying, to say the least. Christina was lying in her bed, unconscious, with numerous tubes coming out of her body and into a machine. I gasped and quickly got my hands up to my mouth before my scream caught up to me. I didn't even react before a gray cold hand grabbed my shoulder. Darkness. I fell asleep. I have no idea how long I was out, but when I woke up, my life had changed forever. Tubes. Tubes everywhere. I couldn't move my body. I had been placed in a bed. My breathing was struggling, mostly due to panic. Where was I? What had happened to me? And why did this happen to me? The door to the room started creaking, and the gray man came into the room. "You're awake. Good," the man said. "I've been hearing so much about you, Nathan. My daughter has taken quite a liking to you, hasn't she? Well, I know you didn't expect this to happen, but it's okay. From now on, you will be helping me. You will be constricted to this bed, but if you behave well, you will be able to get some privileges." So, it's been almost 20 years, and I finally was allowed to use a computer. This isn't a cry for help. Don't go looking for me, or you'll end up in the same place as me. I just wanted to share my story.